These are my 24-25 Premier League predictions. But for every prediction I get wrong, depending on the club I got wrong, I will try give out a ticket to that club, to a random fan. If I cannot get a ticket, I'll just give a random gift card out. 20th, Ipswich Town. Look, Kieran McKenna may have got them to rise up like a football manager team, but reality is about to give them a big slap in the face. Their squad is pretty much the same squad they had in League One, and sure, everybody last season said they were gonna get relegated, and they ended up shocking everybody, but this is the Premier League, not the Championship. And me personally, I think that most of the teams in the Championship, they were kind of just bottling so hard that it allowed Ipswich to go up. 19th, Southampton. To me, the best era of modern football was 2016, and back then, Southampton was scary. Obviously, they would be if you have a Sadio Mane who was scoring goals for you. But now this season, they're going to be relying on a Villarreal flop who just got relegated last season with Sheffield United to get them all the goals. Look, no disrespect to Ben Brereton Diaz, but I really do not think he's cut out for the Premier League. If he gets more than 20 goals in all competitions this season, I will go down to Portsmouth and chant Southampton chants until I get banned from going anywhere near the South Coast. 18th, Brentford. Brentford may have established themselves as a mid-table club, but I feel like this season is kind of all go crashing down. Ever since Ivan Toney got unbanned, I don't know, he's just not been the same. Like, sure, he was doing pretty well in the Euros, and he did score that good free kick against Nottingham Forest. But he's nowhere near the same player as he was before the ban. Add on the fact that Wissa sometimes performs, sometimes doesn't, and that Mbeumo probably will leave, and you've got yourself a team who will be fighting for survival. 17th, Leicester City. I feel like Leicester City will get 54 points this season, so you might be wondering, how come I placed them to go down here? Well, it's mainly because the board is having some shady business behind the scenes, and they're probably going to get a 10-point deduction, if not 15. To be fair, this Leicester side is nowhere near as good as the one we had in 2016 with the likes of N'Golo Kante, Riyad Mahrez and Prime Dendoncker. 16th, Everton. I feel like Everton's season is going to be the same as every other season. They're going to be fighting for survival, and then somehow towards the end of the season, Sean Dyche will somehow manage to cook up, select one random player to play like prime Roberto Carlos, and they'll manage to survive what looks like a certain relegation. 15th, Fulham. I feel like Fulham may have pushed for European football if it wasn't for the fact that Paulinho finally got his dream move to Bayern Munich. Like, honestly, we all thought it was going to be happening like last year, but due to some papers and stuff, it didn't happen. But at least he's got his move to his dream club. I wouldn't be too surprised if this club managed to get relegated. I don't know, if your best players are Wobie, you've got a problem there, certainly. 14th, Nottingham Forest. I don't know why, but I feel like Nottingham Forest do not deserve to be a mid-table club. I feel like they should be higher up, maybe because of their Champions League wins, but I wasn't alive to see that. I feel like they'll be pretty inconsistent this season with, one game they're going to be beating the likes of Spurs, and then the next game they'll be losing to Ipswich Town. I don't know. 13th, Wolves. I remember in 2019 when Wolves used to be the talk of the town. They had players like Ruben Neves, Diogo Jota, Prime Raul Jimenez, Adama Traore, and now their best player is Pedro Neto. But he's nowhere near as good as the likes of Ruben Neves, Diogo Jota, or Prime Raul Jimenez. 12th, Chelsea. I know, I might look like a fool now, but to me, I feel like Chelsea will slip all the way back to mid-table mediocrity. They may have hired Enzo Maresca, who's being heralded as like the next Pep, but anybody who watched his Leicester team will know that all they really did was pass sideways and backwards, sub on a striker and get a lucky goal. 11th, Aston Villa. I know, you might be thinking that I'm probably on some sort of substance right now, but hear me out. Newcastle last season were in the same position in which they managed to shock the world by qualifying for the Champions League, and when they went to the Champions League, well, they were sort of on the levels of Dortmund and AC Milan, they just weren't really quite there. I feel like the same will happen with Villa, and they will probably have a pretty bad Champions League campaign, which will also give them a massive injury to one of their players. Add on the fact that Ollie Watkins looks like he's about to leave, whether in the summer or in January, and you've got yourself a recipe for disaster. 10th, Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace at the end of last season were actually one of the best clubs in the Premier League. Sure, Elise has left and Gehi looks like he's about to go, and Eze has a bunch of clubs trying to get his signature, and Mateta has had a pretty good Olympics campaign, which will probably get him a contract at, I don't know, RB Leipzig, and Crystal Palace will lose some of their best players. But I feel like Oliver Glasner had them cooking at the end of last season, so who knows, maybe they will get top 10 this season. 9th, Manchester United. As a Liverpool fan, there's nothing that satisfies me more than watching Manchester United getting absolutely clowned on by other clubs. And I feel like this season, it'll be the end of Ten Hag's era. Last season they were pretty bad, and other than that FA Cup win, which they probably shouldn't have given the fact that that Coventry goal was just a tiny bit offside, and really a toenail could not have given you that much of an advantage. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. And I feel like this season, they will just be pretty bad. I can see a repeat of 7-0 happening at Old Trafford in game week 3 when we managed to smash them in our own home ground. 8th, Brighton. Now sure, they may have appointed a coach who's younger than some of the players on the first team, but I feel like what he did with St. Pauli last season is a sign for improvement. Plus, Brighton haven't really got a transfer wrong so far, and who knows, maybe this might be the first time and maybe they might have a disastrous campaign, but I don't know, I feel like they will be doing pretty well this season. Not as well as they did under De Zerbi, but certainly pretty well. 7th, Newcastle. Newcastle didn't have a spectacular season last year, but it's still pretty good compared to what they were dealing with before. Miguel Almiron was pretty much missing for like the whole of last season. I feel like that kind of hindered their progress, but I feel like this season it'll just mainly be down to, unlucky draws and losses. 6th, Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham under Ange Postecoglou have been pretty interesting to watch, and as a Liverpool fan, I actually kind of admire their play style. I feel like it's in Spurs' DNA to become Spursy, and I feel like this season they won't be doing anywhere near as well as they did last season. Son is also aging, and Richarlison hasn't really shown that he can be that finisher. And as for Timo Werner, well, this clip kind of shows everything. Beginning of the season, they'll regain their October Premier League Champions trophy, but then towards the middle of the season, they'll kind of collapse, and towards the end of the season, they might have a good run of good form, but then they'll have one unlucky loss, which kind of puts them out of top 4 and ends up placing them 6th in the table. 5th, AFC Bournemouth. This is my third delusional prediction of the day, but it's not my last one, don't worry. But AFC Bournemouth, under Andoni Araola, have been cooking, because it's clear that a bunch of other YouTubers also think the same thing. I feel like this squad kind of have the same feeling as that Leicester City squad. Nobody really thought much of them, but then they suddenly explode. They won't do nearly as well as Leicester City did, but they'll certainly do pretty well. I see them being in top 4 for most of the season, but then end up collapsing towards the end of the season. But hey, who knows? If they do get top 4, good job on them. 4th, Liverpool. Liverpool are starting with a new manager for the first time in nearly 10 years. So this is going to be pretty big, and Arne Slot has got massive pressure on him because he's going to have to fill in the shoes of Jurgen Klopp. I saw the highlights from a couple of the preseason games, and I don't know, this new style of play doesn't really stick with me. I prefer Jurgen Klopp's style of football, but maybe it'll grow on me after some time. 3rd, Manchester City. Manchester City have always been the club at the top, so why have I predicted them to come down to 3rd? Well, I don't know, maybe it's because of Kevin De Bruyne's new hair. I'm not convinced at all by the City team. Considering that this is also going to be Pep Guardiola's last season, probably, hopefully, please go Pep. But considering he's hinted at leaving at the end of the season, it's going to affect them. We saw how last year Liverpool were flying, and then as soon as Jurgen Klopp said that he was going to leave, we ended up falling off. 2nd, West Ham United. Now, you might be laughing at me and saying that this prediction is completely stupid, but hear me out for 1 second. West Ham have signed a couple of good players, like Somerville from Leeds, who was balling last season, but most importantly, Fulkrug. If any of you watched the Euros and Borussia Dortmund play last season, this guy was probably one of the most clutch players ever. Kind of similar to Divock Origi at Liverpool, but less clutch and a bit more pizzazz. Wow, shaboom. 1st, Arsenal. Arsenal have been building something over the last couple of years. Arteta's got them playing some really good football, and a bunch of other youngsters as well, and you've got yourself a title-winning Arsenal team. They did sign Califari to probably play at the fullback position, which might hinder them a bit, but they did the same thing with Ben White, and he was pretty good in his position. But anyways, those are my Premier League predictions. What do you think about them? Comment down below. And if you want to have a chance of winning those tickets or gift cards, all you gotta do is just sub and like the video and watch all my other videos. Thank you, and that's all from me.